Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a Storm Sword. At least that's the only name I can think to give it because it is pretty much mainly focused on storm and board flood mechanics, which is pretty common. There is one card, which is the Iron Beast Warrior, which after rereading the card, after I'd already decided to make this video and was already playing matches, was pretty pointless to actually include in this deck, and I would actually straight up cut it for another Aether of White Wing as a better chance to get Dancing Blade, or just add another Dancing Blade in general. One of those two options would be way better than running the Iron Beast Warrior in this variation. I was mainly thinking because, oh yeah, Iron Beast Warrior, the enhanced effect's really good when comboed with, of course, Dancing Blade. But unfortunately, because I didn't read it properly, it can pull any of these SwordCraft followers, which is the entire deck. So that makes things a little tricky. Other than that though, there is a neutral variation of a similar deck to this that only runs Beast Warrior and of course Dancing Blade as its top end, and everything else is neutral support, and actually is a pretty interesting one that I plan to cover soon, so hopefully you guys will keep an eye out for that. Otherwise we're going to get right into this and check it out. So our first match is against Haven. Xillia Haven, that's okay. So you've still got basically two options. Most decks are either a Lion Haven or they're running the new Hares. So they're the two big decks that have been jumping around in the last couple of days. And it looks like it's going to be Hares because Petra is typically only ran in that deck. And of course, without a good turn 1 play, we're at a little bit of a disadvantage, but it's not, okay, of course, too bad. Some of these games do go very, very quickly. Other games can be a little slow with this deck. That's why it's kind of right in the middle. It's not quite mid-range, but it kind of is at the same time. So it's got, of course, the massive control top end, where you can either control with the board clear, or you can go for lethal in the late game. Or, of course, you can flood the board super early and be highly aggressive. Both combinations of play tend to work out fairly similar. And it's good because it of course can adapt to situations pretty well. Whereas mid-range decks typically like to win in the middle, this deck typically likes to win either early or late. So, interesting difference when I've been playing this deck. So we can't quite wipe all this out, but we can at least develop something onto the board. There is the Saint Hares, and they pulled another Saint Hare. No real surprise. I definitely want to improve my variation of that Haven deck. It's a fairly fun one to play out. So Aether of White Wing to pull the Iron Fist. That's the way I decided to go with this now, because it was either going to be Iron Fist or Zeta, both of which would be really good in this situation. Plus I could use the buff, which would give me a decent stat line to deal with these followers that are on board. So this way we can guarantee the survival of one card. Oh, sorry. No, you can't. I forgot the, of course, Evo effect would clear 1, but they didn't end up targeting the 2-3, so that actually did work out in our favor. So now we can go the Zeta play, getting us the storm damage that we're going to need long term. And since we have been wiping out their boards, it's definitely a good advantage to have. But they do decide to kind of limit me with this Bane. But, I mean, 10 damage is better than none. I am saving, of course, an Evo point in case we do end up getting what we need to kind of cripple our opponent for 10 damage. So I definitely want to hold off. Black Inscripture, that's a good option. And they don't really have anything else, so that's positive for us at least. Apostle of Usurpation. Luckily we did end up getting the Gilded Blade to clear this. I probably should have hit that with the 1-drop spell anyway, but worked out. And, of course, that's going to be game. Once it hit the 1-1, there wasn't much hope to make a big recovery unless they had a board clear, which would take up their whole turn anyway. And now we go up against Rune. Okay, so Rune is a little more finicky sometimes, just depending on a variant. Mysteria has kind of dropped out for the moment. I haven't seen many Mysteria decks in the last day or two, so that's always a positive sign, is not seeing a super large amount of Mysteria, but I reckon it will rise back up reasonably quickly as people kind of, you know, give up on trying new decks out. So that's why this kind of first week is mostly just experimentation and trying some of the new cards that we do have. And I do have the vast majority of the cards now. There are only a couple of golds I decided not to craft, and there's only about less than half of the new legendaries that I don't have at least one or two of. Most of which, of course, are Forest and Shadow. I did craft a couple of most of them because I want to enjoy them, but this match, not actually that bad. I was expecting to go much worse against Rune once they started clearing board, but having the frontline Cavalier to restock, which is definitely not something that's easy for them to clear, followed up by what will potentially be a big board buff if they can't wipe this out this turn, is fairly devastating. Zealot of Truth, not really good enough, unfortunately. So I can go for the White Wing and the Rapier, as I want that to get the extra boost as well, and I'm not really going to use it for much more right now. And that is how you secure games, stopping anything like Nova Flare from potentially clearing you. So now saving the best match for last against Shadow, in particular Reanimate Shadow, so that actually piqued my interest a little bit, as Reanimate Shadow was a deck I actually quite enjoyed when it was first around with the old Zeus combinations, but it's not really a thing anymore after all the nerfs that happened, both to Unlimited and Rotation and all those sort of things, so a little disappointing. But it might make a comeback with the new cards. And of course this is the one match where we can actually get into the late game and take advantage of the new cards. So Dancing Blade. I haven't actually included the new Sword Gold, definitely probably not worthwhile for this deck in particular, but I have got decks lined up that we will be covering that new gold in, so look forward to those. So Gloomy Necromancer off the bat, of course they're taking the advantage of the effect as much as they can to get that 12 drop into their discard basically. That's actually one of the few crafts I would love to give a go if I had the cards for it, but I just don't have enough of the new card and enough of the Mordecai's, I don't think, to really build a Reanimate Shadow deck. Maybe if we get lucky in the next month with just random card packs, I'll give it a go. Frontline Cavalier on 4, well, on 5 because that's our Evo turn, but for 4 cost, that's the way you want to do things. I did decide to suicide the 1-3, wasn't worried about using its Evo since we're going to hold off anyway. It's really the only disadvantage that this deck can be a little Evo hungry for decent effects. Sonata of Silence. Removing effects. I'm wondering why you would want to run that, just purely off the bat, but it's definitely interesting. Alright, so we get the White Wing. Not really getting much, but I decided to keep Lancer of Tempest on hand. I want to really limit what they can play. Probably could have held on to it till next turn for a board clear, but we already have Dancing Blades for that. Or Dancing Blade, not Blades. Although we do have 2 of them, so I guess that plural's okay. Crow Region of Darkness. It's not one you see every day. But we did end up with Zeta, which is a pretty good way to remove this. And we are looking to hold off so we can use Honourable Knight next turn, as he's going to be probably the... And they did send Mordecai. That's a nice setup right there. For what I guess they're looking for is their Crown Amulet, which is actually a pretty crazy card. So with Knight and our 1-3, we're going to be able to pick up the clear on the 1-1 over there. That's probably the best way to do it. As we set up for a potentially decent next turn. There is Fran's Curse. That's pretty obvious that they're going to make that line of play. And they've left themselves with a pretty good board. So, Dancing Blade it is. We'll just clear it out, set up an ambush, and wait. Turn 9, though, is going to be the Infernal Crown, which is the reanimate 8, 10, and 12. This is why everyone suspected eventually Shadow would get a 12-cost reanimate target. Now, I get the chance to, of course, avoid worrying about anything here. And the Commander Celia, once used properly here, will actually give us quite an insane amount of damage for the turn, which will land us up for a lethal next turn. So as long as you play those cards in the right orders, it is actually very powerful. Mordecai the Eternal Duelist, that's not a ward, which is good, because wards are the only thing that would worry me a little bit, because then I would have been forced to use Undying Blue instead of Dancing Blade to go for lethal, when I really wanted to play the Dancing Blade. So I'm glad we didn't see wards. And there it is, Dancing Blade is our win condition now. Double storm damage for 6. Can't really go too wrong. I think Unlimited though is going to be much more fun for that card, for sure. So if you guys can enjoy this deck, it is a lot of fun. It is a little legendary heavy. Again, I would definitely be cutting Iron Fist Beast Warrior. I think that's the first thing I will probably do once I'm done with this video. Cut it for just another card in general, really. Anything in this deck would be better because he's just kind of useless at this point. In this deck in particular, I think the Unlimited Neutral variant deck will be much better for him. I might even try and slot in another Lancer or something, would even be better. Homebound Mercenary I'm also a little iffy on, but I can see why it would have a chance as a decent either 2 or 4 drop play when this deck has only got a couple of options for both of those, Oathless Knight and of course Frontline Cavalier. If you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. You will find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.